go a different way. I think by going a little younger, I think it's showing to the Mets fans that, hey, they're not too far away from winning again. They really aren't, because they thought it was going to happen this year by the addition of Tom Glavine, and then, of course, with the nucleus of the ball club with Vaughn, and you got Alomar, you got Piazza. Nobody would have ever imagined those guys getting injured and then Alomar getting traded. But, you know, all in all, you got to look at the bright side of things. You got to look up the road, and I think what is transpiring right now is for the good.
You know, after the pregame ceremony that I heard you, Gary, I only have one question to ask.
Okay.
Do you ride a motorcycle?
I do not. I never have. Okay, and what a great gift, and I thank the Mets organization. Certainly, it had to have come from a number of sources, Jeff and Fred Wilpon. But my kids have already told me that I'm not going to be allowed to ride it.
They're going to be fighting you for it.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. But I've always kind of wanted one, you know, and a Harley Davidson. And it's one of those type of Harleys that don't come around too often. You know, it's one of those elite models and everything. So
you look good at it.
Oh boy, I don't know. I don't know if my kids are going to allow me to, but I'm just excited about it. And it's not a midlife crisis either. I can tell you that. Okay.
Hey, by the way, Harley Davidson's home office, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, home of the Milwaukee Brewers.
Well, the first batter, Osick, is trying to hit one out of here, and it is a fair ball right off the screen. And so Osick, a Long Island boy, greets Dan Wheeler with a home run. Brewers lead 1-0.
Wow. That was one of those balls that could have gone either way, but it stayed fair, and it did hit the fair pole or the screen out there. Osick stood at home plate watching it for a little bit, but you know, the toughest thing for any pitcher coming in, I'm sure that Dan Wheeler didn't realize that he was going to be in this ball game, and Glavine. I shortened my speech because I didn't want to disrupt Tommy Glavine's, you know, pre-game routine. And now here Dan Wheeler's in the game.
Yeah. Although here's the pitch, 2-0 pitch that Osick gets.
By the way, Osick is in the game tonight specifically to catch Ben Sheets.
Well, that's interesting because obviously Greg Maddux is that way with Atlanta. That pitch in there for a strike, but the ball just makes it, hitting the screen there. Osick watched it for a little bit. Wheeler's hoping that it goes foul, but you know, that's one of those things.
Here's a high fly ball by Clayton, right to Timo Perez. You know, Gary, let me ask you this.
Okay.
As we start, we referenced a little bit, we got sidetracked in the first inning, the Tom Glavine issue that came out during the week.
Number 15.
Right. And it was a story by actually a writer I know, and a very reputable writer, Pete called Aaron Berger, New Jersey, wrote this story. But I would have preferred, I would have felt much better if I had gotten something stronger than a source close to somebody saying that allegedly Tom Glavine didn't, or said he doesn't want to pitch to Mike Piazza after 240 wins in Atlanta, where he never said, I won't pitch to Javi Lopez like Maddux did. And as a catcher, you must have had some similar at some point as Sheets shoots that one foul. Did you ever have a similar experience with a pitcher either wanting you or not wanting you at any point?
Fortunately, no. I think most everybody wanted me. In fact, if I did or was given a day off, I remember Ed Lynch one time, it was a day game, it was against the Chicago Cubs, and he begged for me to go in there. So I went in and begged to Davey Johnson if I could play, and certainly then he put my name in the lineup. I proceeded to go out there and hit 2 home runs off of Derek Botello, and Ed Lynch won the game, and he came up to me with that handshake afterward and said, "Thanks, kid."
You know, that's the reason he wanted you in there, because of that bat. Believe me, he didn't care about who could call. The pitcher calls his own game. If a pitcher is worth his salt, he calls his own game.
Right. In a lot of ways, and a good strikeout there to the pitcher, Ben Sheets. But, you know, Teddy, there's a lot of variations of ways to call a game and everything. And Fran, you being a catcher, you have to understand this too. There's some guys that are set in their mind about how they want to approach and how they're going to throw to certain hitters. We put a suggestion down. They're the ones that ultimately can shake off, and if they're not happy with the pitch that was called, they have the right to do that. We are only putting a suggestion down, which we feel is the right pitch to be called.
You know what? If I could have Seaver, Kuzman, Carlton, and Koufax, I'd be a genius.
Absolutely, you would be.
I'd be a genius.
It'd be easy. You put 1 and 2 down all the time, and you're going to be a winner.
And that really is what getting back to Glavine for a second, is what seemed to be so unfair, is that to have, after all the years where he established in Atlanta that he wasn't that kind of pitcher, to have that damaged in one story, to me, you needed something better than, and it wasn't even a player, it was a source close to someone.
Yeah,
that's a little disturbing.
I don't like that stuff, and it's amazing how things can get fabricated, and it's a shame because, I mean, even the comments that came out about Mike Piazza and the fact that he was talked about in trade, well, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, certainly Mike is an icon here in New York. He's had a tremendous career, and I think if you were to ask him point blank, he would tell you that he would want to finish his career here in New York.
It's an insult to a catcher when you read that stuff in the paper.
Absolutely.
All right, so Dan Wheeler settles down after the home run, gets the side out. Brewers jump on top as Keith Osick's second home run of the year gives him a 1-0 edge. 1-0 Brewers to the bottom of the second. More from Matt Loughlin.
All right, Ted. Tom Glavine left this game with a strain of his right rib cage. He is listed as day-to-day, and they are unsure if he'll miss his next start. Obviously, that will be determined as time goes on. But again, the right rib cage, injured it on a pitch. Not sure exactly which one. Again, we'll know that at the end of the game. But on one pitch in particular, right rib cage strain. And so Glavine is done for the night. Again, listed day-to-day.
And I promise you, Teddy, I didn't shake his hand too hard, okay, that would have caused that rib cage injury.
And I'll tell you what, you also mentioned is, let's look back. June the 5th, doubleheader night here at Shea. Glavine and Sheets started game 2, and Glavine gave up 4 runs in the first inning. This hit to lead off the second and left the game. That was the forearm problem that Glavine since has claimed as recently as last week, said, you know, it's not bothering me. That's over with. So that's the good news, is that this is an unrelated issue.
Well, you know, we can get back to talking about this ball club and some of the changes that are transpiring because obviously, and that's a great hit by Jason Phillips. What a great job he has been doing.
This young man, you obviously know him being a catching instructor in spring training. What a job he's done at the plate and at first base.
Tremendous job. Here's a guy that's made a great transition of being able to get his bat in the lineup, but this kid can hit. That's a good breaking ball that he takes right back up the middle off of Ben Sheets. And not only has he done a great job, and look at where his extension is, and look at where the pitch is on the outer half. I mean, that's a great piece of hitting right there by Jason Phillips.
Jason Phillips has been very productive hitting, playing first base.
Yes.
Now, will the Mets, you've been a catching instructor.
Right.
Do the Mets feel that he will someday catch every day is the key in the major leagues? Because that will take a toll on somebody's bat.
Well, I agree, Fran. It will take a toll, but I believe that Jason Phillips has the capabilities of playing every day and catching every day. Obviously, the way he has shown, he has spelled Vance Wilson from time to time, but I think when Mike Piazza does come back to play, it's going to be behind the plate.
You know, it's funny, Gary. You wonder if, has anybody asked Jason Phillips, do you really want to get behind the plate the way you're swinging the bat in a strong fashion at first base?
Well, if I were him, I think I would welcome it with open arms because it would be a very long and prosperous career for Jason Phillips because of the fact that he has proved himself at certainly the minor league level that he can catch, and he's got a great arm, and he receives extremely well. I love Jason Phillips as a catcher, but I think that in his opportunities for this future to be able to play first base, it's just going to prolong his career a great deal.
And you're a lot stronger when you don't have to bend up and down.
Absolutely. So it could be, I don't know what the future calls for, you know, the situation, being that they have the 3 catchers. But there is a possibility that Jason could be the regular first baseman. Then it go back to the same platoon situation, or not platoon, but regular situation they had before with Mike being the regular catcher and Vance catching and giving him some days off, usually on day games after night games.
Timo pulls a foul, 3-2, and obviously all of this has an impact on the return of Mike Piazza and whether or not he eventually does move to first base. And Gary, they were showing a highlight, and I didn't know this great game in Cincinnati when 85 or was it or 86?
It was 86.
86. Yeah. Great game in Cincinnati. Hernandez makes one of the great plays you'll ever see by a first baseman. Jay Bell has been working with that mask. But Hernandez fields a bunt in front of the plate near the third base line, throws to third base for an out. back to first double play. You're the third baseman.
Yes.
I didn't know that until I saw the highlight.
The reason I got inserted into that game was because of the fight that included Ray Knight popping Eric Davis, and then Kevin Mitchell was also ejected from that game. So they put me at third, and they had Jesse Orozco and Roger McDowell switching from right field to pitching. And I remember when Pete Rose was the manager at that time, he complained because they were given 8 warm-up pitches whenever there was a left-handed hitter and a right-handed hitter. That ball hit down to the right field line, and it's going to find its way out of play.
You know, it's funny you're talking about that game. Ray Knight, who was just in town and managed yesterday the Cincinnati Reds, that was a slide. Eric Davis slid into third base and got up and said some unkind words.
Yes, and being that Ray Knight was a Gold Glove boxer, he just popped him.
He did.
Oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. There I am showing the excitement when Ray scored that winning run in that bottom of the 10th inning in Game 6. But Ray was he was a good guy to have on the ball club, and there's another foul ball there on a 3-2 count. And you got Jason Phillips. He's going to get tired if Timo keeps fouling pitches off.
Well, you know, Gary, you can speak to this. Like Johnny Bench, you were a Hall of Fame catcher. Late in your career, you moved.
Right.
Is it beneficial for Mike?
I think it would be. I don't know how receptive he is to it. And, of course, there was questions about how much does he know about the position.
Well, there's a shot right past Sexton. The Mets have some action. Phillips will get to third, and he's going to be waved around by Matt Glavine. And Jason Phillips is going to go first to home on a double by Timo Perez that ties the game.
Well, you know you have to put it down the line like that and out of the reach, because the right fielder was playing pretty much over by that 371 sign, and with Jason Phillips running on the pitch, Timo lines it down the line, and Phillips scores all the way from first base. So you know it had to be placed perfectly for Jason Phillips to be able to score.
Watch Jason Phillips run.
Oh, is he flying? Watch him.
He's thinking third base. Now he's going to have a heart attack. Kidding me?
I guarantee you that our Aflac trivia question the next time has got to be, look at it, he knows it. When was the last time, if ever, that Jason Phillips went first to home?
That would be a good trivia question, but he is smiling about it now, kiddingly, because not very often are you going to see Jason Phillips score all the way from first base.
And then also a terrific at-bat. It was an 8-pitch at-bat for Timo.
Right.
And a big hit.
Very good at bat, and of course if you get a 10-pitch at bat, I know that Denny Walling has a way of being able to treat the guys to a steak dinner in Manhattan. There's a good play by Osick. But, you know, getting back, Teddy and Fran, to the situation that may eventually benefit Mike, I was very receptive to getting a day off from time to time. I know that in 1984, one of my best offensive years, it was because that Bill Verdon inserted me in and giving me a day off. And I was open-armed to that because it kept my bat in the lineup but gave my knees a rest. So I think for Mike's sake...
He's saying he put you in at another position.
Had put me at first base. I played 25 games that year in 84.
I don't think anybody could argue that that would benefit the Mets and Mike, so that his bat is not gone 35, 40 times a year.
Exactly, and still keep in mind that he would be the main catcher behind the plate.
Good piece of hitting there by Wigginton. Timo's being waved home. Clark comes up firing to the plate, but it's cut, and the Mets have the lead on an RBI single by Wigginton.
Boy, I have to agree with you there, Teddy. That was a great piece of hitting, especially with nobody out. You want to try to get the runner over from second base to third, and he just does a good job of hitting, driving that ball to the right side, staying right on it, a breaking ball. And I'll tell you what, that is so good to see from Wiggy, because here's a guy that there was a question mark on whether or not he was going to be productive and be able to play third base in the style and manner which the Mets were expecting. And boy, I'll tell you what, he's come through and had a big, big year as far as I'm concerned.
And Timo Perez drives in one, scores one. Wigginton is now 6 for 7 against Sheets this year. What was so nice about that swing is you kept talking to Fran last night. He seemed like he was out in front a lot, and he stayed back on that.
Yeah, he stayed back, and as you mentioned, going the other way and hitting the ball hard enough to get it through the infield. Now you get Vance Wilson. Now you're making a decision, and say you're making a decision on Vance and Jason Phillips. You're judging one who's catching every day and swinging the bat as opposed to one who's playing first base.
Right.
Fair?
Is it fair?
Make that judgment unless you got to see the guy catch every day.
Right, I think so. I think Vance Wilson has done a tremendous job, and you see some of the numbers that he's put up there, certainly with runners on and ones that are not on. But, well, that might be a double play ball.
It is. Dreyfus, look at the numbers, just jinxed him.
Yeah, I think it did. But, you know, you got to look at the overall scenario of things. You got to look also as you see Eric Young and Royce Clayton, a good turn to Richie Sexton to complete the double play. But you got to look at the overall scenario. Are the pitchers enjoying throwing to Vance Wilson? Do they enjoy throwing to Jason Phillips? I mean, what it really comes down to is the numbers game. Are these guys producing good statistics for their pitchers? Are their ERAs very respectable? And are they winning ball games with those guys behind the plate?
Let me remind you of our conversation a moment ago when Ed Lynch said I want Gary Carter in the lineup, and he had 2 home runs.
Exactly.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it.
You know, the manager's going to put the guy behind the plate who he thinks is going to be productive with the bat.
Exactly.
Mike Piazza lived through this. I laughed with him about this. When Piazza was in his prime with the Dodgers, Tom Candiotti, knuckleballer, one of their starters.
Sure.
Piazza got that day off. That was his day off because of the knuckleball. Took too much out of him. Candiotti went nuts. Tom wanted Piazza in there for the bat.
Absolutely.
He didn't want the backup catcher.
Absolutely. And I tell you, I'm so grateful and thankful that I never did have to catch a knuckleball pitcher. But I can understand from Tom's standpoint, here's a guy that he wants the wins and everything, and he's got a guy that he'd like to have in the lineup.
You know what it all boils down to? The bat.
The bat. You got it.
Right. Gary Carter with us on his night, and the Mets take the lead in the bottom of the second.
All right, well, this copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Sterling Mets and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated.
There it is.
All right, disseminated. There you go. Without the express written consent of Sterling Mets. I wanted you to correct me.
You said Mets properly.
That's a Hall of Fame disclaimer right there. As Gary Carter joins us on his night, and it's, of course, Cooperstown Sunday, Shea Tuesday, and you're not done yet because, as we learned last week, there's an homage to Gary Carter set for Montreal this weekend.
How about that, Teddy? It has been a whirlwind, but it's been an exciting one, and being able to enjoy it with my family has been great. You know, the Mets organization have been wonderful. I will always remember and have a place in my heart for those 5 wonderful, glorious years I spent here in New York. And, you know, those T-shirts that are made very, very public here in New York. I love New York. Well, I do. I really do.
Hey, now, Gary, you know, the New York loved you. You know why? Your bat.
Yeah. My bat. There we go.
We're back to the bat.
Disseminated.
There it is. Hey, by the way, you got that beautiful Hall of Fame ring on.
Right.
You know why you're in the Hall of Fame?
The bat.
The bat.
Not the glove?
You could throw and catch with anybody.
Right.
And you could call a game with anybody.
Right.
But the Hall of Fame called you because of the bat.
All right, let me ask you this. If I've heard this story, I want to hear if it's true. Now that Hernandez just left, by the way, so I'm saying this. 86, bottom of the 16th.
Right.
2 outs. The Mets are up a run. You go out to talk to Orozco on the mound in Houston. Hernandez comes over and says, if you call anything but a slider, I'm going to knock you out.
You know what, Teddy? Never happened.
Never happened.
No.
Okay. Apocryphal story.
It's a good story, though,
It's
right?
a great story. It was very fabricated.
That's right.
And I've presented it to Mex on a few occasions. In fact, confronted him on it. But Jesse Orozco, it's hard to believe that man is still throwing. And now with the Yankees, we just saw that quick shot of Tim Tuffle and Howard Johnson. But let me tell you what, that 86 year was very special. But I knew in my mind Kevin Bass was a good fastball hitter. And we had come back so much that whole year, and to come back in the fashion in which we did in that 9th inning to tie the game, then score a run in the 12th inning. They came back and scored another run on Billy Hatcher's home run off of Orozco. There's a good pitch.
Nice job by Wheeler.
Absolutely, and a good block by Vance Wilson. There you go. But when we got to that 16th inning, look at the form of Vance Wilson. Good job, lets the ball hit him in the chest protector, keeps the ball out in front of him, and makes the easy tag. That's a good job of catching right there by Vance Wilson. But when we scored those runs in that 16th inning, and then in the bottom half, the Astros came back and scored 2 and had the tying run on second base. And there was no way I was going to throw a good fastball hitter like Kevin Bass anything but a steady diet of breaking balls.
But still a good story.
It's a great story. But it's because of the bat.
Greatest,
Because of the bat.
greatest game you ever played in? Was that
It had to be probably, Teddy, one of the most exciting, no question about it. And that right there just about sums it all. The excitement. That was, of course, Ray scoring that winning run in Game 6, but that was exactly the same kind of excitement I had running out to the mound when Jesse Orozco did strike out Kevin Bass, throwing my mask way up in the air, just as Jesse did when he struck out Marty Barrett in Game 7 and tossed his glove up in the air. What a thrill that was.
All right, nice job of pitching. Dan Wheeler goes through those big bats. Jenkins and Sexton, just like Orozco did many nights here at Shea.
Hey kids, you'll not want to miss the Mets game on Saturday, August 2nd. It's Build-A-Bear Workshop Day. The first 12,000 kids 12 and under attending the 1:20 p.m. game against the Cardinals will receive an exclusive Shea Bear from Build-A-Bear Workshop. For your tickets, stop by Shea Stadium or Keyspan Park. Visit a Mets clubhouse shop. Log on to Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX.
Last of the third, the Mets have the lead, and Gary Carter joining us on his night here at Shea.
In Gary's speech, he mentioned Judy Wilpon, who had an operation today, and we're told that everything was fine. She's in good shape. Members of the Mets front office told us that Judy's in terrific shape now, and it's just a matter of recovering from the operation. So I want to pass along our best wishes to Judy
that's
Wilpon.
great. And I know that I appreciated the call from Mr. Wilpon. Fred had called and congratulated me, obviously, on the Hall of Fame weekend, which he was not able to attend. And also tonight attending to Judy at the hospital. So the reason why I wanted to mention it is that hopefully everybody in the ballpark, we're going to be praying for her for a quick recovery. I know she's an avid tennis player and all too, and just very active, period. So we're just all praying for a quick recovery, and just appreciated Fred giving a call and just acknowledging all those good things.
And Judy was involved with the New York Mets years and years ago when they were looking for a name. People would send in suggestions, and who was getting the suggestions? But Judy Wilpon, who worked for the Mets years ago after coming in from Michigan, and has some great stories concerning the naming of the New York Mets.
Tell you what, they are a team that will be around for many, many, many years to come. And I think that we've had the high points and the low points of this organization. But I tell you what, it's been exciting. And especially 86 will be long remembered for me.
Well, Gary Carter, that was a quick half inning, but thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Congratulations.
Thanks,
on
Teddy.
the well-deserved. Gary Carter's hands, by the way, look way too good for a guy who caught that many games.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Kid, always a pleasure.
All right, Fred. Got to be the bat.
We'll be back for the fourth.